So my favorite part about being a gearhead and a car enthusiast is not actually the cars, it's the people you meet. Oddly, since college, almost all of my friends have been through cars. Like, it's absolutely blows my mind. I don't know if I'd have no friends without cars, but certainly all of my close friends, the people that I get together with every week, it's our shared enthusiasm for cars. I met Doug sort of at a chance happening at a car show. I was at Cars and Coffee at Symbolic Motors at the time in San Diego, and I came with another friend in a McLaren. I think he brought his Ford GT at the time. We just made some small talk and had some things in common, and one thing led to another, and I was like, hey, let's get together sometime. The friendship just kind of snowballed from there, where you realize, like, oh my God, I found someone as obsessed as I am about cars, and wow, he's into the Sultan of Brunei's cars and knows what an LMO02 is, and like, there's these little subtle checks you do when you first meet someone to realize, to find out, are they a real car guy? Or are they just like kind of into cars? Like, I do well with people that are utterly obsessed and know just like ridiculous amounts. It can be like, oh yeah, I can tell the difference between this car and that car, even though most people wouldn't. So Doug and I think after a while, like kind of came into rhythm. And then Sam was our other really close friend. And then when COVID happened, you had to pick your bubbles of people that you were like, okay, I trust you. At the time, I had a newborn, and Doug and his family were also planning that, so we were all extra careful. And I could always trust that Doug was extra careful, and I was extra careful, so we could be part of our COVID bubble. And so when you only hang out with 3 people for a couple years, or at least a year, you get really, really close. And that was right when Doug also launched Cars and Bids. And he came to me and Sam and a few other friends at the time and said, I got this idea, and I think I'm going to do it. And that was when I realized with Doug, when he says he's going to do something, he's not floating the idea or thinking out loud. He's going to do it. And some of his ideas don't sound good to me at first, or I think, oh, that's a lot. Like, you're going to take on, bring a trailer? You, a YouTuber? Like, do you even know how to code? No, I'm going to find someone for that, but I'm going to do it. I've set my mind to it. I'm not turning around. And I think what's made Doug so successful and what I admire so much about him is just the work ethic he has is bar none. Everything you see him do on YouTube, he comes off as quirky and fun and lighthearted and maybe even goofy sometimes, but he's very deliberate. He's very thoughtful. He does such deep research on every car, and it's impossible to always get every fact right on every video, but he's darn close. I don't know how he does that. He will text me in the middle of the night, and he'd be like, I was reading Wikipedia for 2 hours, and did you know about this bridge? And it's like, no, Doug, I don't read Wikipedia at 2 a.m. about bridges. But that's the kind of guy Doug is. And that's funny enough, the comments on his channel are always, Doug's the kind of guy. Well, Doug's the kind of guy to work his butt off. And I think that's what's made him so successful in part, is that work ethic is just nonstop with him. And it carries into his personal life, whether he's playing tennis or board games or what have you. Like, that competitive drive is nonstop. I no longer play board games with Doug because it's not fun. He just knows so much trivia and beats you so badly that you're like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. You can just take the W. All of our games on the Cars and Bids channels too, like, the audience will accuse him of rigging it, but it's entirely because he's worked so hard and learned so much from reading all the time that he's gonna win, even if he did quote unquote rig it, because he's just that hardworking. So that's what I admire most about him. The other big thing Doug taught me is he meets a lot of people. And I'm sure Ed and the VINwiki crew do too, where you get recognized, people come up to you and they make small talk. So he's gotten really good at quickly meeting someone and kind of getting a read for who they are and who he wants to let into his circle. And I think the 2 lessons there are, 1, be deliberate on who your friends are. You become that combination of the people you spend the most time with. And Doug's very good about finding people he likes and enjoys and keeping that circle close. And we all benefit from each other and really enjoy each other. So he's done an amazing job at that. But he's also just really good at being conscious about people's energy. So he looks for people that smile, that ask a lot of questions about you and have a lot of curiosity. They're easy to laugh. Basically people that are just going to bring up your energy and bring you up into a higher elevation in terms of your energy. So I like that. I never really thought of it that way. And now when I meet people, I think like, oh, do they smile quickly? Like, are they warm? Do they laugh at my jokes even if they're not funny? And then also, like, are they asking questions about me? Like, are they a curious person? And if they have those traits, generally speaking, those are those little brown M&Ms that say, that's actually a really quality person you want to be around. And if they only talk about themselves, if they're kind of always negative and complaining, like that's usually also a good brown M&M test to say, maybe those aren't the kind of people you want into your brain and into your day-to-day life, because they might drag you down with them. And Doug has now built cars and bids a lot with his friends. Kenan, one of the most important people there, they were friends first. I don't actually work for Cars and Bids in a direct manner, but Doug and I were friends first. So then he said, hey, come join my YouTube, come join my podcast. Filippo, same thing. Sean, same thing. Most of the staff, oddly, are friends with Doug. And a lot of people can't do that, mix business and pleasure and friends and work. But I think Doug is both intentional about who he's friends with and finds those like-minded, driven, happy, cheerful people. And then he treats them really, really well. And so they obviously want to be part of that. So I really admire having worked alongside Doug and seeing how he operates. And I think that positivity he brings and the energy he brings in his videos are something I try to emulate in my day-to-day life at work, with my family, with my kids. You even think of like the Blippy like characters as someone with a young kid. Like the guy's over the top energetic, but kids love that. People like to be around it. You become a magnet for positivity. So as woo-woo as that sounds, if you put out good vibes, they come back tenfold, and Doug is a masterclass in doing that. Doug has no filter. I enjoy people with no filter. Maybe that's one of his calculus he does, is figuring out the people around him, are they okay with having less of a filter and speaking their mind? The beauty is you always know what's on their mind and where you stand with them. So it is, in a way, a unique form of honesty, to have someone that will speak their mind and that you trust. And maybe that is where you got to test people a little bit. Are they allowed in the circle of trust or not? But yes, he both gives and receives the jabs really well. And I'd say our group dynamic, that competitive spirit, comes out a lot, where we give each other a hard time and we tease each other, especially about cars. So famously, he gave me a hard time when I sold my TTRS, because I was having a kid, I was getting a Cayenne, and he's like, this is it, it's over. Nick's never gonna have a cool car again. And kind of, I think in hindsight, he was using reverse psychology to make sure that I didn't give up and kind of egg me on, because then all I could think is, I got to prove Doug wrong. I got to prove Doug wrong. I got to get a cool car. And that's what got me into an R8 and then a Murcielago. Same with the Murcielago. When I wanted to buy one, I said, can you please put me in touch with Ed? He seems to be Mr. Murcielago. I'm sure he knows some off-market examples. Doug goes, oh, I'm not going to do that because you're not going to buy one. I'm not buying it. You're not going to do it. And I said, I'm going to buy one now just to spite you. I wasn't quite that linear, but almost, in terms of like being told no fueled me on there. But I see him do that with other people too. And I think sometimes he might be using reverse psychology to get them to prove wrong and go through with the thing. He's also incredibly a man of his word. So if he says he's going to do something like launch Cars and Bids or buy a G Cabriolet, both of which I thought were bad ideas, he's going to do them. And turns out he was right on both of those. So I think being someone who's true to your word and following through is really, really good. I mean, when he sold some shares of the company, he's still obviously heavily involved, and had the opportunity to buy the dream car, I think it's a really overwhelming experience. You've got the money, you've got the attention. What do you decide to buy? The F40 had also been part of his plan, right? And that car during that process went from expensive to very expensive and changed the calculus some. But I will say, Doug is someone who drives all of his cars, and the Carrera GT fits him so well from that perspective. The F40 is a very difficult car to drive. It is, 10 plus years older, and it's made by Ferrari, who's known for their questionable things sometimes in terms of like what they could execute, versus Porsche is known for their precision. They build millions of cars. They make everyday cars and then also happen to make a supercar, as opposed to Ferrari that really only does the low volume hand-built stuff. So I think the initial trade-off of F40 versus Carrera GT was difficult for him, but I've never seen someone drive a car so much with, like, it's raining out and he'll almost take the keys and go drive it just to prove a point that I'm the kind of guy that drives a Carrera GT in the rain or the dirt, or drives it to Palm Springs, which is 100 miles away, just because there's so many people that lock them away and put them in a protective bubble and talk about the values and the stitching. And he just wants to put his nose up at them. So I think that's also a great lesson from Doug, is you buy the car to enjoy them. Doug also, in our friend group, it's a running meme. Whenever he drives a car, whether it's the Countach, the Carrera GT, the Ford GT, after he finishes his drive, he tells us all, this is the best car ever made. And it's just really that emotional high he gets from that car. at the moment be like, the Countach is the best. No, the Carrera GT is the best. But he falls in love with the cars every time he drives them. And I do think a lot of the collectors that don't drive their cars and try to preserve the wrappers and say it's a 3-mile Ford GT or whatever, they sell them because they never enjoy them. And so they just become these like pieces of art. But if they actually connected with them emotionally, they'd say, I'm going to keep this car forever. It's the greatest car ever built. So I admire that Doug picked a car and landed in the right car after all, which might not have been what he initially set out for, but is the car that he could drive like a car, drive it hard, drive it to Cars and Coffee, drive it to, anywhere he needs to go, Sprouts to pick up cookies, and really enjoy it.
For the last 20 years or so, I've been working with Premier Financial Services for my own exotic car needs, but also sending friends and clients when I was a car dealer to Premier Financial Services because their simple lease is truly the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. We love it because we get all the great things about leasing, like low upfronts, better tax treatment for business owners, lower sales taxes, but we also retain all the great things about a traditional finance arrangement, like the ability to accumulate equity, trade in and out whenever you want, and always know where your payoff stands because they give you an amortization table with every single lease. And Premier's been a supporter of VINwiki here for the last 8 years, and we love them for that, but truly because the customer support of the Premier Financial Services team is unmatched. And now that they're backed and wholly owned by First Financial Bank, that gives them even more buying power for their portfolio of the most significant and valuable collector and exotic cars in the world. It's also allowing them to create new and more interesting finance options and programs for their clients and giving them much more buying power, which is what everybody is looking for as they go on the search for their dream car. So check out Premier Financial Services right now at the link in the description below to thank them for their support of VINwiki and know that they'll be the perfect supporter of your journey to own your dream car.